All right, strap yourselves in for this one, because today we're taking a deep dive into a topic that might just turn everything you thought you knew about attraction and relationships upside down. We're talking about hybristophilia. Ever heard of it?
I think a lot of people would be surprised by how common it is. It's this really fascinating but kind of strange phenomenon where people find themselves attracted to criminals, and we see it all the time in those big high-profile cases, but it's actually something that goes a lot deeper than that.
It really does. We've got excerpts from a book here, and it takes a deep dive into the psychology of it all. And let me tell you, there's some really eye-opening stuff in here about how it affects not just relationships, but even things like societal trends and evolution.
Yeah, the author starts off talking about his own experiences, like noticing how often women are drawn to that classic bad boy type, even when it seems to go against all logic and safety.
And the book goes even further, exploring why that might be. It dives into things like evolutionary biology and psychology.
So to kick things off, let's define exactly what we mean by hybristophilia. Essentially, it's a sexual attraction to people who have committed crimes, often violent ones.
And we're not just talking about some passing curiosity. This book highlights tons of examples from history, like Bonnie and Clyde. They were criminals for sure, but they had this rebellious, almost glamorous image.
Totally. Their story definitely captured the public imagination. And then there's cases like Sandra Bridewell, a teacher who completely uprooted her life to marry a death row inmate.
Wow, talk about a life changer. There's also the story of Patty Hearst and how she got involved with the Symbionese Liberation Army after being kidnapped.
Right. Each case is unique, but they all point to this pattern of attraction to figures who are connected with crime and breaking the rules.
And it's interesting because the book even brings up examples from pop culture, like when Miley Cyrus was seen wearing a Charles Manson t-shirt.
Exactly. It's everywhere if you start looking for it.
Now here's where things get really interesting. The book makes a pretty bold claim that hybristophilia is actually being fueled even more by certain ideologies, specifically Marxism and feminism.
Yeah, the author argues that these ideologies, with their focus on victimhood narratives, might be creating a space where being attracted to criminals is more likely to happen. It's definitely a controversial idea.
Totally controversial. He also links it to things like the hashtag Free the Nipple movement, saying they kind of blur the lines and contribute to a societal desensitization to crime.
You know, whether or not you agree with his conclusions, it makes you stop and think about how the things happening in society might be influencing these attractions.
It really does. But the book doesn't stop at just societal factors. It also explores the potential psychological reasons behind hybristophilia. And one of the big ones is this idea of the dopamine rush.
Oh yeah, the rush we get from risky situations. Kind of like what people experience with extreme sports or gambling. A powerful biological...
Makes sense though, right? Bad boys often have this air of unpredictability, which can be intoxicating for some people.
Absolutely, that constant emotional roller coaster, always being on your toes. It can be addictive, even if it's not healthy.
They thrive on the drama.
Exactly. And the book even suggests a link to mental health issues like anxiety and depression, proposes that people dealing with these conditions might be more susceptible to these types of attraction. It's something to think about, for sure.
Definitely something to consider. And then there's the whole influence of media. Think about how often criminals are portrayed in movies and TV shows.
You're right, it's everywhere. Take someone like Ted Bundy, a horrific serial killer, but he was also seen as charismatic and charming by so many people.
And it's crazy how the media can create this almost glamorous image around criminals, even the really dangerous ones.
It's wild, right? Like it has this power to shape how we see things, even when we don't realize it. But getting back to the book, it makes another interesting point about how modern technology, especially dating apps, could actually be fueling this whole hybristophilia thing.
Yeah, that makes sense when you think about it. These apps give you access to so many more potential partners than you'd ever meet in real life, and that includes people who have criminal records.
Exactly. It's never been easier to connect with people you might not usually cross paths with. And that definitely includes individuals who've been involved with the criminal justice system.
So the book doesn't shy away from talking about the potential consequences of all this, does it?
No, not at all. It actually digs into the risks for both men and women.
Right, because it's not just a one-sided issue.
For women, there's that constant worry about emotional turmoil, financial exploitation, even physical harm.
And for men, it highlights how much pressure there is to fit this bad boy image, the one that keeps getting glamorized, which can really mess with their self-esteem and mental health.
It creates this totally unrealistic expectation that can lead to all sorts of problems in relationships.
For sure. Then the book brings up this whole concept of negging, which is basically a tactic some people use to mess with your confidence and make you crave their approval.
It's so manipulative. It's like a classic power play to gain control in a relationship. The book gives a simple example. Imagine you're at a bar and someone says to a woman, "You'd have great hair if you weren't wearing so much makeup."
It's like a backhanded compliment or something.
Exactly. It's meant to plant that seed of doubt and make her look to the person who gave the compliment for validation.
So sneaky. And the book argues that this kind of negging can actually play a part in hybristophilia, creating this cycle of dependence and control.
Absolutely. It's all about establishing that power imbalance. And it's particularly effective on individuals who are already drawn to more dominant personality.
But what's the alternative then? Because the book actually suggests going back to more traditional values, particularly for women.
Yeah, it kind of challenges that whole obsession with the bad boy and proposes that maybe the good girl image could lead to a more fulfilling life.
Interesting. It even suggests that instead of chasing that excitement through risky relationships, women should focus on other things in their lives.
Things like exploring their passions, building strong friendships, or getting involved in activities that bring them joy and satisfaction in a healthier way.
Finding those outlets for excitement and stimulation without putting themselves in potentially dangerous situations.
Exactly. And recognizing that a relationship with someone involved in criminal activity isn't going to provide that lasting happiness they might be looking for.
All right, we're back and ready to dive into some even more controversial territory as we explore how modern trends might be connected to this whole hybristophilia thing.
Yeah, this section of the book really gets you thinking. It goes deep into topics like violent pornography and how it could be influencing our perceptions of relationships and violence.
It's definitely heavy stuff. The author argues that the increasing amount of violent porn out there, especially the stuff women are watching, could actually be linked to this growing attraction to criminals.
Yeah, his argument is that being exposed to that kind of content can desensitize people to violence, and it makes that line between fantasy and reality even blurrier. Pretty disturbing when you think about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then things get even more controversial when the book brings up the hashtag Free the Nipple movement. So you have this movement that's all about challenging censorship and empowering women. But the author actually suggests it might be unintentionally feeding into those hybristophilic tendencies.
That's a bold statement for sure. It makes you wonder about those unintended consequences. Like, is it possible that even movements with good intentions could be playing a role in this whole complex issue?
It definitely makes you think, are we really empowering women, or are we accidentally putting them at risk by normalizing or even glamorizing behavior that could be harmful?
Tough questions, not easy answers. But the book wants us to really think about these things, to examine how these trends might be shaping our views on relationships and attraction.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The psychology, the societal influences, those potential dangers. It's clear that this hybristophilia thing is way more complicated than it seems at first glance.
Really multifaceted, with roots in our biology, our psychology, even the way our society is set up.
Even though the book paints a bit of a bleak picture, highlighting all these factors that might be feeding into hybristophilia, it doesn't leave us totally hopeless. It actually offers some solutions.
One of the big ones is education. Specifically, comprehensive sex education that goes way beyond just the biological basics.
So not just the birds and the bees, but also teaching young people how to develop their emotional intelligence, how to build healthy relationships, and how to spot those red flags that signal unhealthy attractions.
Right. Give them the knowledge and skills they need to navigate the complexities of relationships and make smart choices about their partner.
And the book goes even further, suggesting that we need to take a hard look at certain parts of progressive ideologies, the parts that might be contributing to the problem.
It's not about rejecting progress altogether. It's about making sure that progress doesn't come at the cost of individual safety and well-being. It's all about finding that balance.
Yeah, encouraging personal responsibility and promoting a more nuanced understanding of how relationships really work.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's about creating a society where women are empowered and healthy relationships are the norm, without accidentally glorifying behaviors that are dangerous or harmful.
Well, this deep dive into hybristophilia has been quite a journey. Eye-opening, thought-provoking, and yeah, a little unsettling at times.
It's not exactly a light topic, but that's what makes it so interesting, right? It pushes us to confront those tough issues and really grapple with complex ideas.
For sure. And remember, knowledge is power, even when it comes to the darker sides of human nature. We've explored the psychology, those societal influences, and the potential dangers of hybristophilia.
You've gotten a taste of the author's perspective and his arguments. Now it's time to dig deeper and explore the book for yourself. come to your own conclusions.
If you're feeling that spark of curiosity after this deep dive, there's a whole world of information waiting for you. You can find the full book on Amazon Kindle and Google Playbook, so go ahead, dive in, and let us know what you think. Until next time, stay curious.